In this video, we are looking at a popular concept in programming, that is what we call the OOP. So the meaning of OOP stands for object-oriented programming. Now, procedural programming is about writing procedure or function that perform operations on data, whilst object-oriented is about creating object that contains both data and then what? Functions. Okay. Now, object-oriented programming has several advantages over the procedural. That is the old style of writing code. OOP, these are some of the advantages. Number one is faster and easy to execute. So if you want your program to be very fast, then you go with the OOP. Another one says OOP provide a clear structure for the programs. Now when you use the OOP, we are coming to talk about your program will be well structured. Okay, it'll be very easy for anyone. Those who are not even programmers can even understand and read your code. Okay, so it makes the code easy to understand and also maintained. It also helps to keep C++ code dry. Now we have one principle in programming, we call it don't repeat yourself. So the don't repeat yourself just make sure you don't have duplicate lines of code throughout your program. You just write it to one and then use it anywhere. So in order for you to go by that principle or that principle, then you need to use the OOP we are coming to show here. And then the last one says OOP makes it possible to create 4 reusable web applications, okay, with less code and then short development environment. Now imagine you are creating a very big vast project. Okay, now if you don't use the OOP and you keep repeating yourself, you realize the code you have at the top, the same thing is at the middle, and then in a different file you are going to repeat the same thing there. What do you think will happen? It will consume a lot of time. Okay, but if you go with the OOP, you just write it once and then you use it in so many places. That is why it's recommended these days that all developers should really know and master the concept of object oriented. That is the OOP. Okay, all right. So this is some note here. The don't repeat yourself principle is about reducing repetition of code. You should extract out the code that are common for the application and place them at a single place and reuse them instead of repeating it. So this is like functions. Okay, it's like functions. Functions are actually grouping lines of code in and then giving it a name. Whenever you call the name, it's going to execute. Now these functions you are talking about, they are also embedded in the OOP we are coming to look at. Okay, all right. Now this OOP thing, okay, it's all about 2 most important things: classes and then what? Object. So the class and then object, they mix up the OOP. So classes and object are the 2 main aspects you can see of the object oriented. Now look at the following illustration. So let's look at how we can perfectly understand what is a class and then what is object oriented. Now we have one class. Now for now, I don't want you to think about programming. Take your mind away from coding, programming, software, and then let's think reality. Okay, and this is not science too, so forget about the classes we have in science. Understand that this is a new thing we are looking at. Okay, so we have a class, and the class we have, the name of the class is fruit. Look at the object under the fruit. So this is the class being the fruit, and then the object is apple, banana, and then mango. Now what can we see here? You see, the class is the bigger picture, is the structure or the main let's say the main structure, and then the objects are simply the examples or the instances of the class. So fruit, if you pick an apple is a fruit, banana is a fruit, and then mango too is a fruit. Now these ones, they have their uniqueness. The color of the apple may be different from the others, the taste of banana is different from the others, and some other properties, they are different. But at the end of the day, you can see they have the same structure. They are edible, they have color, like they have the same kind of structure. And those structure, these attribute, these objects are having are all wired up in the fruit. Now, when you see a fruit, you will not call it a car because you know the structure of a fruit. If you see a car coming, you will not make a mistake and call the car animal. That's because you know the structure of cars. They have doors, they have steer, okay, they can move, they can start, they can stop, okay. So the structuring of their behavior, how they are supposed to behave, that is what is wired up in the class. So the class is the main thing, and then the object, they are coming from the class. So apple, banana, mango, they are all coming from the fruit we have here. Let's go down and check another example. So the one I was talking about, we have a class called car and then an object. So what are some of the examples of car? That is how you can be able to know object or fish out some object. Examples of car is Volvo, Audi, and then Toyota. We don't have an actual thing. We don't have a specific thing like a car, as in this is a car, one thing, a car. No. If you say a car is a class, it's a bigger picture. It just provide or give you the structure of, okay, it gives a structure. So under the car class, we can have Volvo. It's a different thing altogether. But this Volvo we are talking about will have a steer, will have doors, will have color. Okay, that same attribute I've mentioned, Audi, will be different, but it also have the same thing. It can be that the color will change, and then probably the brand will also change, and then there are some other things. But at the end of the day, they are all having, coming from the same class. They will be unique, but the properties will be the same. The property is all about the color, the brand name, and some other uniqueness of the object. So when we say class is the bigger picture. Class is the template or is the blueprint where objects are originated or objects are emerged from. Okay, so it says what? So a class is a template for object, and an object is an instance of a class. When the individual objects are created, they inherit all the attributes, all the functions, all the variables from the class. So it says you will learn more about classes in the next chapter. Okay, so that is something small about class. Now in C++, before we dive to the practical aspect, in C++, this is how you can create a class. Okay, now there are some two important things I want to talk about in classes. There's something we call attribute and also methods. Attribute and then methods. So this thing that you are seeing here, you see class and then public. Under the public we have some variables created here. Okay, so this is what we call the what? The attribute. Now the public you see here, we call it access modifier. Now for now we are going to be using the public for some time. Later on we will come down and then explain to see why we need to change or the other available access modifiers. Okay, but you see how the class is created. Class, and then the name of your class will come. Then you put it in what? A curly bracket. So quickly let me go to the code editor and then we start writing some code. Now to take note, to create a class, you have to go above the int main. Okay, you have to go above the int main. We don't create class inside the int main. This is totally wrong. Your creation of classes are supposed to be above the int main. So to create a class, you start with the keyword class and then the name of the class you want to create. So this time around, like we saw in the lecture, we want to create a fruit class. So fruit will come here like this. Now right after the closing curly bracket, there's going to be a semicolon. Leave it like that, no need to take it off. If you take it off, most of the time it's going to generate an error. Okay, so you try as much as possible to make sure whenever you have your class, the closing curly bracket will have its corresponding semicolon. Okay, now your class is created. There are some two important things I want us to also talk about: attribute and then what? Method. Okay, every class must have an attribute and must also have some methods. Now, what are the attributes you are talking about? Let's say you have taken two fruits here. I have banana and then I have mango. What are some of the things, or what will differentiate the banana from the mango? So what can differentiate banana from mango? We can talk about the taste. That is one. We can talk about the color, because banana and then mango, they don't have the same color. So color is what is differentiating the two. So color becomes an attribute. Again, we can talk about the shape. When you pick mango and then you pick banana, they don't have the same shape. So what is making them to be unique? That is what we call the attribute. So always when you are identifying an attribute for a particular class, just picture in your mind that you have two instances of that class. So fruit, you have two instances, pear and then pawpaw. Okay, now that you have these two instances, ask yourself what will differentiate one from the other. Now the shape of pear is different from the other one, so shape becomes an attribute. The color becomes an attribute. Okay, the texture becomes an attribute. Anything that differentiates them becomes the what? The attribute. So for now, let me put this keyword there, public. Later when we look at why we are using the public here. Okay, so just put your public keyword there and then come down. Okay, so what are some of the attributes for the fruit? The attribute for the fruit will be the color. So color. Now the question is, what data type is color? Or what data type can store color? Remember, color is simply a series of characters. Okay, so we can't use int, we can't use float, we can't use any other data type. The best data type we can use for this will be what? Will be string. So string color, that is one attribute we have given. Again, let's go ahead and then add another. Apart from the color, we can also talk about the texture. Either is for rough, smooth. So string texture. We have the texture, and then looking at fruit, we have color, we have texture, and every fruit must have a name, right? And then for the name we're going to use string. It doesn't mean always it's string throughout, but it depends on what you are going to store. If for instance we are giving it age, we can't use string. Age is simply some integer, so we have to use the int data type. Okay, so we have created our class. The name of the class is fruit, and then these are the attributes for the class. That means in this class, any object that will be created, that object will have a name, will have a color, and also texture. Okay, all right. Now always this is the approach. You can see public is here and then the attributes are under it. Okay, it's possible. I know, let me say this so that when you see it somewhere, you will not be confused. You know that it's normal. You can also gradually make it like this. You can just make it each property, each attribute having public against it. It can be done this way. Okay, but you can also shorten it by using one public up here and then bringing the rest down. This is telling you that the name, the color, the texture, they are public, meaning it can be used everywhere. Are you with me? So this is what we call the attribute. What we have here, we call it attribute. Some to call it properties, data members, and then what other one? Class variables. Okay, now these are some of the names you'll see people use for what we have down here. So they are the attribute. If you don't hear attribute and then you hear properties in OOP, they are talking about this, the uniqueness of the object. Then right from here, we can also add another one. So in every class, you give it property and also what? Methods. Okay, methods or function. Now when we say methods or function, they are simply, the actions or the abilities of the class. So this class that we have created, we are talking about fruit. What are some of the abilities or what are some of the actions of fruit? I think fruit, they have the ability to to fall from the tree they are on. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe the fruit is on a tree, it can fall down. So it becomes an ability, it becomes an action it can perform. So for this, we have to also give it an action. And the actions are, they are methods or functions. So please, if you've not seen our functions video, try and then go back to functions, okay, where you understand it, because what we are doing here, we are combining variables and then functions all together. So void fruit has fallen. Fruit has fallen. Okay. Now there can be so many methods or abilities, functions, but let me just use one. So we have the name, color, and then texture being the attribute of the fruit, and then the for being its what? Its method. So that is all about class. I don't want to move faster, so I'll pause here. But let me just conclude what we have done, and then the next lecture I will actually take my time and then continue from here as I did here. Okay. So when we say class, a class is the template for creating object. It is like, when you are going to build a house, you need to have the structure of the building on a paper. That's what we call the building plan. Okay, so that building plan, you give it to the contractors, they will build the house according to the plan. So if on the plan the house should have 3 windows, when the actual house is built, it's going to have 3 windows. Please, I hope you are with me. So over here, it's just the same thing. It's just the same thing. If the class is having 3 attributes, that means all the objects or all the examples that will come from that class will have 3 attributes. If the class is having 1 method, all the objects coming from the class also have 1 method. Are you with me? It's very important. Like let's look at this analogy. This example. So you are walking and then you see someone going. You don't need anyone to tell you that this one is another person, because based on we humans in our mind, we have the classes of everything in our mind. So if you see a man, this is a man. If you see a woman, this is a woman. If you see a dog, quickly you know the class the dog is coming from. Now, what do you think will happen when you see someone and the person is having 3 heads and then 4 legs? You start to run away, because if you compare the structure of human to what you are seeing, there's a vast difference. And your mind failing to understand or failing to classify that kind of entity makes you, trigger the action of fear in you, and then you begin to run away. Are you with me? So that is all about class. If it's a class, it has a structure that all the objects are forced to go by. Okay, so I don't want this video to be too long. I will end the lecture here, but please quickly, if you've not subscribed, consider subscribing, like, and then let me see your comment down there. Anything you don't understand, anything you don't get well, feel free, put it in the comment section. I will look into it, and then I'll make sure all your questions and then your confusions are resolved. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next lecture. Bye.